Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and a very special welcome back. It's only been 7 months since we've spoken, and I said to this man before we pressed record, it felt like it was only last week, such as the impact that this gentleman has, and we're going to talk about the impact of his new book. Mr. Walter Crosby, coming in all the way from Detroit, Michigan. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the invite back. I appreciate the great conversations that we had and we'll have again here. This is going to be fun.
We will. So, as I said, it's been 7 months. For people who haven't maybe listened to that particular podcast, and I highly recommend they go back and do it because there's always new listeners jumping on board, as you would know, Walter, with your podcast, Sales and Cigars. You are the Chief Executive Officer of Helix Sales Development, and you are the author or co-author of the newly released book, Inside Out, Why Strong EOS Companies Have Weak Sales Teams and How to Reignite Growth. Very much looking forward to this conversation because it's a great time of year, and when people are listening to this, it's probably in January, but it's still a great time to do some reflection on their year and what the year ahead is going to look like. Just for people who perhaps haven't caught up with the previous episode, just a little bit about your background, what you've been doing, and what led you to running the Helix Sales Development Organization.
Well, I've been in sales for almost 4 decades. I fell in love with sales, and I realized that I could make a great living and not have to, not have to go to grad school. But what I realized is that grad school is life. And, we certain professions, my wife's a CPA, so she has a lot of CE credits that she has to get in this country, right? Where you have to go keep learning. But that's what we do. It's what you do, right? You have to stay current. You got to stay fresh. So I started this agency almost 10 years ago now because salespeople, sales managers, sales leaders, like, they need help. And sometimes people don't realize that it's their responsibility to go get the help. Sometimes they don't realize that they need the help. And if somebody has an open mind and is willing to learn and experiment, they can get better at this profession. And it's frankly, it's quite easy to rise to the top 20% of a sales professional if we just apply ourselves and we try to put the effort in and try to get better. So that's my goal, is to elevate the sales profession.
I love that. And we were speaking before we pressed record how a lot of people not just in Australia, but across the world who are in sales and sales leadership don't take that personal responsibility for their own development, and they expect the company to feed that development. And there's no real, you don't go to university to learn how to become a sales professional. Having said that, there are now courses and certain MBAs that now start to teach sales and marketing because it's such an important topic. But in your experience, and we had this bit of a conversation before, why do you think sales leaders and salespeople don't take the initiative and they wait for their organization to, I guess, for want of a better term, spoon feed them the development?
Yeah, I love the idea of spoon feed them, that it's not their responsibility. And I'll do a sales technique. Why do most people abdicate their responsibility to improve themselves? Like we know we should, when I say we, I'm just going to be the metaphoric we.
Yeah.
We should lose weight, or we should exercise, or we should eat better, or we should read more, but yet we don't. I think salespeople are a microcosm. No one's forcing them to. So many sales leaders, so many CEOs don't really hold salespeople accountable.
Mm,
They accept that level of mediocrity. And so, you know, maybe they're just thinking like, why bother?
mm,
It's not going to make a difference. Um, and, maybe there's a element of pride in in this, uh, in the fact that they're not taking the initiative.
mm,
Um, and it's also, at least here in the States, if we think about corporate America, um, they've always treated sales training as check the box, it's off the pay, we're done, we did it, right? We did 3 days, everybody felt excited, it sounded good. Um, they'll retain some of it, and some of it they won't. Um, and that's just been just a practice.
mm,
And if you want some different results, maybe we should think about changing it up a little bit and how we approach it.
mm,
I mean, there's billions of dollars spent on training and sales training. It's meaningless if we don't have the foundation to coach people, to support that learning, to
yeah,
make sure that it's followed and that
yeah.
they have the accountability. So, yeah, I don't know if I answered the question, but I think there's a little bit of laziness, a little bit of pride, and a little bit of abdication of their responsibility.
I would fully agree with that. And what's interesting, there's a number of clients that I've worked with over the last, say, 5, 10 years that they bring you in because the sales team needs fixing. And they bring you in thinking that you must have the magic wand that changes everything. And then, interestingly, the sales leader, the sales directors, the chief revenue officer is nowhere to be seen in the training because it's the sales team that needs the fixing. And then they wonder why, after a day or 2 days or a week of training, whatever the training program is, they wonder why the results don't instantaneously change. Because I think, hang on a second, we've done the training, therefore everybody should be fully versed in all the methodologies. So why aren't we getting the instantaneous results? It's because,
Right.
as you mentioned, there's no implementation plan afterwards. And one of the things I always do now is make sure that if you want a day's training, there has to be some follow up, some accountability, some coaching ongoing, whether it be individual or group coaching. But also, I make it mandatory that the sales leader or the sales director who is sponsoring that is actually in the room as well, because they need to be across the language and they need to make sure that they're driving accountability.
How can they do it if they're not in the room and they're not learning,
Well,
right?
I reckon it comes back to the pride thing you said before. Maybe because they've reached that higher echelon of the level of sales director, they know it all. Therefore, God forbid if they go into the room and look like a bit of a dummy, how's that going to make them look?
Yeah. Well, being being humble is part of being a leader.
Mm,
Showing your your weaknesses as well as your strengths
mm,
is how you can relate to a team.
mm.
Um, and diving in and asking questions, in that training. I mean, it happens a lot more often than one thinks. Is that the leadership isn't in the room.
Mm.
I think I told you before. We did a training with a client a few years ago, and I'm like, "Who are we missing?" And they're like, "No, everybody's here." And I'm like, "Where's Bob? The sales manager."
Yeah.
Well, Bob doesn't come to these. Well, go get Bob. I'll wait. Right? And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "We're not going without Bob. Let's go. Go get him." And he come in all like sheepishly. He's like, I have a full calendar. Okay, well, unfill it because you need to be here.
Mm,
This is just as important for you as it is for them.
mm.
So it's a real thing, and I think there's a lot of factors going into it, but we don't put that same pressure on salespeople as we do other people. An engineer has to have credentials.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that our finance people can balance their books, and the checkbook has, um, it all balances out at the end of the month. But we don't do the same thing with the sales team, and we make assumptions about them
Yeah.
as leaders. Um, it's and I think the blame, if you will, there's plenty to go around, but it
Yeah.
starts as with the individual.
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about that in terms of the profession because you were saying before we press record that your wife's a CPA and she has to continue to get credits and keep up the, I guess, the professional, for want of a better term, the accreditation. And we
Mhm.
don't seem to have a lot of that or any of that really in sales. So how do you look at sales from a perspective of a profession? Because there are a lot of people that fall into it. I don't, and full transparency, Walter, I don't think I've ever met somebody who said to me, you know what? I've been wanting to be a salesperson since I was 3 years old. They're just somebody I want to aspire to.
I I've talked to a guy on my podcast the other day who was the closest to that
Okay.
I think I've ever come. And he went to he was more of an operational guy. He was a creative, so he was, taking photographs and video.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he always enjoyed being around people and engaging with people. And he, as a kid, he said he had that affinity to be not necessarily entertaining and but be part of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
He was the little kid that was sitting there listening and then would ask questions,
Mm-hmm.
which is what we want our salespeople to do, right?
That's it.
Um, so I think that came the closest that I've ever had. Like, but I've never heard somebody, yeah, since I was 10, right? I've always wanted to be a salesperson, because we have the wrong image.
Yeah.
So I like to think of it and reframe it as a profession, that it is an opportunity. It's one of the highest paid jobs out there, right?
Mm,
It's one of the highest paid professions. And you look at people that are, outside of founders of big companies and the Zuckerbergs of the world,
mm,
salespeople can earn a great living.
mm,
Um, and it's just how I think everybody thinks about it. I was talking to a client today where, like, I'm paying salespeople 300,000, 350,000, $400,000 a year. Like, yeah, that's great, isn't it? I was like,
mm.
I was excited. And he's like, well, that's just a lot of money. And I'm like, oh, geez. Okay. So you're in that entrepreneurial space where you're writing this check, right? So if you're paying them $300,000, what are you making?
Mm.
Well, taxes and capital and none of that. I'm like, okay. So either you're running your business poorly,
Yeah.
right? Or you're full of shit, right? And it's somewhere in there,
Yeah.
probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
That if they're making a lot of money, you should be making three or four times what they're making.
Mm,
And you shouldn't begrudge it because the stereotype, right? Where all we do is go out on golf courses and go to lunch and happy hour with our customers. And one, it's not the 1970s. It doesn't,
mm.
there's a lot of places you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, but if we don't think of it as a profession, and we don't think about it as something that we should be trying to improve our skills,
Mm,
improve our mindset,
yeah.
then it's a job. And maybe you're not wearing a paper hat, working at a fast food joint. But if you think about it as a job, then it's a job. And if you
Yeah.
think about it as a profession, it's something that you should aspire to something better.
It's a really interesting point, and I've come across the whole gamut of salespeople and sales leaders that sit on that exact that spectrum, right? There are some that just treat it purely as a job, and they're in it for them. They think, I'll get to a certain level, I'll get paid really well, and then I can take the foot off the gas and I'll just cruise. Then there are others that take it really seriously as their own business, as a calling, to the point where they'll never stop and they have a voracious appetite to learn and to get better and always stay ahead of the curve. And they're the ones that, interestingly enough, are the ones that attract good people. And funnily enough, they get good results in their team that are more consistent and more sustainable. It's because they do treat it as a profession and they take it very, very seriously. And I liken it to, and this year in particular, I've started to use more of the metaphor of the doctor. And my daughter's now become a doctor, and that's probably where it came
Oh,
out. You know, if we go to a doctor, We don't expect the doctor to say, "Hey, we've got some deals on some pharmaceuticals. How about you take some of these?" Right? That doesn't
Right.
happen. We go to a doctor because the doctor has a level of credibility in the marketplace as an expert, and they will diagnose us. So, as a salesperson, and certainly as a sales leader, if we could take on that narrative and that sort of persona, all of a sudden we become an expert at diagnosing problems. People are more likely to listen to us. But if we then remove the attachment to having to get the perfect outcome or have to sell them something, there's less pressure. But we position ourselves as the expert. It's a completely different philosophy.
Well, you're 100% right, and you can take that analogy with the medical profession farther. And at least in this country, our healthcare system, everybody thinks it's great. It sucks, right? It's there's just a certain group of people making a lot of money, and the people that really deserve it aren't. But
Mm,
that's a separate conversation. But you go to the doctor because you have a problem, right? And what do they do, right? To your analogy, they ask you some questions. They dig a little bit deeper. They run some tests. They don't immediately throw some surgery ideas at you, and they don't throw pharmaceuticals at you, right? Because that'd be
mm,
malpractice, right?
totally.
They want to dig in. Salespeople can do the same thing, but with a doctor, like they can make you wait in the waiting room,
Yes,
right?
for
And
hours.
then they send you into a little room that's freezing and tell you to take your clothes off and put these things on, and then it's a horrible experience.
Mm,
So, but they have this credibility. They have the answers, or we hope they have answers, or they
mm,
know how to get the answers. And we can be salespeople too, because doctors don't know things. They specialize to very specific areas. So if we model that, where okay, we didn't go to school
mm.
for an extra what 8, 7 years. How long did your daughter have to go to school?
She ended up doing 7 years, but it was a 3 year biomedical degree and then a 4 year medical degree on top of
Okay, so she's really smart. Um,
that. Takes after her mum,
so
Walter.
yeah. So but she learned a lot, but she can't stop learning, right?
No.
She's got to stay current. She has to keep reading about the drug interactions and the latest, medical device and the latest techniques, and but she also has to learn how to talk to people.
Mm,
And she has to, because the great doctors, they pull up that little goofy little stool and sit down on it and slide up and look you in the eye and start talking to you. Like
yeah.
that's how you know you got a good doctor, because
Yeah.
they start to engage and listen. Salespeople could do the same thing, right? We don't get the white coat, but it's the same thing. Really engage, really listen, really be curious about what it is. Try to help the person.
Mm,
If your goal is to help somebody instead of sell them a thing, you're going to have better relationships. You're going to build rapport faster. You're going to sell more, right? Because you're literally trying to help people.
yeah.
And it's amazing when you tell a prospect, I don't, I don't think we got a fit here, man. How quickly they like, what do you mean? You're a
Yeah.
sales guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm I'm a sales guy who wants to help, and I don't
Yeah.
know, right? If this is the right fit for you. And then all of a
Mm,
sudden the role reverses,
mm.
and they're trying to sell you on why they are a good fit. Um,
And
but
by the
but my
way,
my point,
yeah, go. Sorry. Keep
yeah,
going.
my point is that if you're really trying to help them, sometimes that's the right thing to do.
Oh, it is. It is. I was just going to say, for people listening to this, this is not a special ninja sales tactic. This is just being a genuine human being, right? Because if you don't have a fit for the problem that the customer has and you don't have a solution to solve that, then don't profess to say that you do. Because just because you want to get a sale, that's making it all about yourself. Irrespective of what your sales director's telling you, your sales manager, you're behind in your quota, do the right thing. And that is serve your customer with the best solution. And that may not be your solution.
But if exactly right, doing the right thing when nobody's looking is always the right thing.
Yep.
Doing the right thing when you're adding value to that person, but being able to be a resource
Mm.
to that prospect, um, I mean, I talked to a guy sometime last year where he had a problem that it was a big problem. Um, I could help him with it, and we figured out it was costing him $50,000 a month, right? And I'm like, wow, that's 50,000. Is that a lot of money? He goes, yeah, it's a lot of money, but I got a bigger problem. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, geez, right? So empathy, you're like, what do you mean you got a
Yeah.
bigger problem? That's a lot. And he had a
Yeah.
bigger problem. He had a problem that was costing him $500,000 a quarter. And if he
Wow.
didn't solve it, he was going to be out of business in 6 months,
Yeah.
right? I couldn't help him with that problem. It wasn't in my bailiwick, but he
Yeah.
told me all about it. And I'm like, I can't help you with that. And it doesn't make any sense to go work on the $50,000 problem
Yeah.
until you solve that problem.
Yeah.
So I know a guy that might be able to help you with that, or at least might be able to get you closer to solving it.
Yeah.
Can I make an introduction? So we talked a little bit about that. They connected. That guy called me 2 months later. I didn't call him. He called me 2 months later and he's like, thank you. We've been working through, right? And it looks like we're going to solve the problem. We're going to be able to buy the time, blah, 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 right? He wasn't going to go out of
Mm.
business. Um, and then it was about 6 months later, he's like, hey, you want to revisit the $50,000 problem?
Hmm.
And I'm like, sure, but did you really solve that? And what's changed, right? So we entered into a relationship and an engagement, but it did the right thing. But being a resource,
Mm.
he never asked me about price. He never challenged anything, right? I mean, he asked a lot of questions, but
Yeah.
he I had proven that I was there to help him,
Mm.
um, because I didn't try to squeeze him in the $50,000 problem because it wouldn't have worked.
That's it.
So doing the right thing, like you said, is essential.
And the great thing about that, Walter, is you got to stay in the game as well. You got to be in this for the long haul because if you look at your customers as short-term instant gratification type of an approach, you might get some good short-term numbers, but you potentially burn longer-term relationships and referrals will not start to come in. But if you go from a perspective of, you know what, I'm here to diagnose, I'm here to help, I'm here to serve, and maybe right now, me working with you is not the best solution for you and your business. This is where you need to be focused. That will pay dividends because you'll remain top of mind. And when they're ready, you'll be the first person they call. And as you rightly said, there's no real conversations around discounting or pricing. It's all value based because they know you've already proven that you're there to look after the interests of them. So you'll do the right thing by them by entering into an arrangement moving forward. And it's just, and that will come back and multiply because people start talking, right? Because your
Yeah.
level of trust in the
Trust.
marketplace goes up. Yeah.
Yeah, you've built trust,
Yeah.
and there's a multiplier there.
Mm.
I don't know the science behind that, but I just know that um, it was something I was taught as a kid.
Yeah.
Just do the right thing,
Yeah.
even if it hurts,
Mm.
right? And it sometimes it did. But I also say this, that there have been times in my career where I I did the sale, right? Where I like something in my gut told me, not that I couldn't help them, I
Yeah.
could, but the other side of that coin is they don't seem like they're going to be serious about this, or they're not really committed
Yeah.
to, hey, we're just going to do the training. I got to get it off my plate, right? Just
Yeah.
come in. And like, I don't want to work with that company.
Yeah.
I don't want to work with that sales leader
Mm.
because it's not going to be successful. And then you get a bunch of little one-hit wonders, right? And you don't go anywhere. So to your
Yeah.
point about introductions and referrals, I mean, those are gold.
Mm.
And you can as you build those over the years, your prospecting activity, your business development work becomes, it never goes away. Don't
Yeah.
Let's not lie and tell people that it goes away. It doesn't. You always have to be working for it, but it becomes a nice little surprise every quarter, every month where you get a
Yeah.
new piece of business. But you got to earn them.
You do.
And
You
and
do.
that's building rapport and then building that trust, and trust takes time.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it brings, I want to talk about the book in a second. It reminds me of a post I saw yesterday from one of the I mean, it's most well-known sales coaches in Australia that was talking about that very fact that you've got to stay in the game. He said there's so many coaches out there that almost have, well, I'm now coaching in this flavor of the month topic and this and I'm changing every 2 or 3 months and there's no continuity. So there's a new shiny thing that comes out. But when you are known for a certain thing in the industry and you stay the long game because you're there to deliver true value, then it may well be a longer game. But I guess over the term, it's going to be well worth the effort because you're going to get some really good, high quality, loyal customers that are going to get real value, and that's where the satisfaction comes from.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love it.
because this is sales is hard.
Mm,
It's difficult. It takes mindset. Um, it's one of we fail more than we win, and we still can be successful.
yeah,
I mean, baseball is probably one of the other places where you can uh, fail and still do really well financially,
yeah.
and maybe a weatherman on television because they're wrong most of the time as well. Um, Weatherman and weatherwoman, right?
That's right. We're the person.
Meteorologist.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, but I think that's I think that's something to recognize. So it's a challenging job. That's why a lot of people shy away from it.
Mm,
You got to you have a little bit of a thick skin. But I think what I was taught 30 years ago was if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.
yeah. Yeah.
And not every second, not every minute, not every day. But if you're not enjoying the process,
Mm,
then you might be in the wrong spot.
yeah.
Might be in the wrong seat.
Absolutely. And you got to have a sense of urgency, but you've also got to have a sense of patience as well and enjoy the process, right? And take every opportunity to learn about yourself, but also about your customers, about the industry, because it's gonna pay dividends down the track.
It, ask and being curious, right? I think there's a couple of things that salespeople need. That curiosity,
Mm,
right? That the natural, like, why do you do it that way? Really? And literally, like you're talking to a friend and they're telling you about a problem and you're literally digging in and asking questions like why did you go that way? Why did you do that? You
mm,
said that to her? What's the matter with you, right? You kind of you dig in with a lot of questions. You got to bring some empathy,
mm-hmm,
right? You can't just make fun of people because they're doing dumb things. But I think you also have to bring a little skepticism
mm,
to the conversation and and call out, you know, in a nurturing way. Like, I don't understand. You
yeah,
just told me A, and now you said B. I'm confused.
mm,
Which which one of these is true? And and you really, if you have the patience, as you said, to do that, there's some really gold at the end of that path.
yeah.
But it takes a minute. You can't just like, I like what you have. This sounds really good. Can you put a proposal together? To me, that's like, oh crap, it's a death knell.
That's
Especially
right.
if they say it like in the first hour or the first couple of meetings, like, oh crap, something's gone wrong here.
Yes,
But I got to get this back on track. Um,
because they're going to use it as a coffee coaster.
yeah, I mean, there's a couple of tricks. I mean, one thing that I try there, and you tell me if you've ever done this, that they say, hey, this all sounds great. Can you send a proposal, right? And
Yeah.
it happens to be at the right spot. All right, happy to send you a proposal. Let's pretend I did,
Mm-hmm.
and you loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest thing since sliced bread. All of the boxes are checked, everything you were looking for, all the stuff we just talked about, A, B, C, D. What happens next?
Yeah.
And because I just did a proposal
Yes.
in the mind, right? And I'm going to figure out if they're serious. I'm going to figure out what, two more people I got to talk to, whatever that next issue is.
Mm.
Um, without having to write the proposal and getting ghosted because I hate writing proposals.
Well, it's great if you can get away from if you can close a deal without a proposal. That's a good thing. And look, there's no
Well,
reason why you can't. If you've got good credibility, a good trusted relationship, then let's move forward. I got so many clients that we've just done it on the back of a conversation or back of a napkin, literally, and there's no contract per se. We're just working together because it fits.
well, yeah, you've outlined it out. You're really clear about what the scope is. You're really clear about outcomes. You're really clear about timing. You can literally do that on the back of
Mm,
a napkin or a piece of paper.
yeah.
And then, maybe you codify it with an agreement later. Um, Getting paid is important, right?
Well, you need that. You
To
need
really codify
that.
things.
Yes, it does. It does. So, Walter, I'd love to delve in. I know we've only got limited time, but the new book that's come out, Inside Out: Why Strong iOS Companies Have Weak Sales Teams and How to Reignite Growth. First question is, what was the catalyst for the book, and what do you consider to be, I guess, the key message that is carried within the book?
It's a great question. The catalyst was trying to help a, a very specific niche of people. So I believe that there's the same buckets of problems exist in many companies. And some of them have all of the buckets and some of them have a few of them. But I've had a lot of clients over the last 7 years who um, are they use something called the Entrepreneurial Operating System or EOS.
Yeah.
And it's a great system. It's spectacular at figuring out how to run better meetings, how to operationalize your systems, to create a clear vision.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's some limitations to this when it comes to the sales organization. So my thought is that the US companies are great, but they have a disconnect with the sales team. They're not integrated into the EOS piece
Yeah.
because EOS falls a little short, in my not so humble opinion. And the EOS people will argue about that, and that's fine. We're all entitled to opinions. Um, but I think what what I talk about in the book are the things that they need to do to integrate that back into their world, into their vernacular.
Hmm.
So they're great with systems,
Yeah.
but most most of the people in an organization struggle with building the right systems and processes for the sales department because one, salespeople resist,
Hmm.
right? Especially the ones that aren't very good. They
Yeah.
jump up and down and scream and shout. So maybe the founder, maybe the CEO, maybe the visionary, the integrator is not really a salesperson and they're
Mm.
not sure. And we just hired these guys to be experts, so maybe they know better. Well, they probably don't.
Mm.
Um, the numbers speak for themselves. So salespeople need help. They have some of the basic skills. If they're competent, they can go out and have the right conversations, but they need help with following a sales process and methodology to know where we are with opportunity so that
Yeah.
we're all using the same language and that I mean, just hiring salespeople
Mm.
is something that they do badly. Most companies do badly. And I think it's ass backwards. And I'd be
So why do you
curious your
think that
take
is,
on this
Walter? Why do you
because
think
they
that is?
do it the same way that they hire everybody else.
Yeah.
And it often works in when they're hiring an engineer or a marketing person or an admin. But with salespeople, they're often better at the interview than the hiring manager.
Yes.
Definitely better than the HR people.
Yeah.
So the seller becomes the buyer and the buyer becomes the seller. And the company is the buyer.
Mm,
So they should stop selling. If they just did this one thing, they would be directionally correct. Stop selling the role, stop selling the opportunity, and stop selling the company
yeah.
to that candidate until you know that they're the right fit,
Mm,
right? And they need to be a fit mindset wise, they need to be a set skill set wise, and they need to be a fit culturally.
yeah.
And we can argue about where we start. Um, if somebody's got a strong culture and they're really living it, and they've got a great leader then maybe we should look at their culture first.
Mm,
But in a traditional setting, we need to make sure that that candidate can go do the job.
mm,
Do they have the skills? So I think they do it as backwards, and then they don't attract the right people, and they're looking at hiring people when they should be selecting.
mm,
So we have, every country has an elite military force. Every branch of the military has an elite group. So our Navy has a group called the SEALs,
mm,
and SEAL Team 6 is supposed to be like the top of the top of the top. They're selected
mm,
for that program. Rigorous, uh, rigorous training that they go through. Rigorous. It's really hard to just become a SEAL, and
yeah.
then you got 4 or 5 more levels to get to be on one of the teams. It, it's we should adopt that
Mm.
idea when it comes to uh, looking at our sales candidates, and that's one of the things we talk about in the book.
Because you talk about the hidden cost of hiring for industry experience. I love your thoughts on this because you just talked about, yeah, they've got to have the capability, but I see so many sales leaders going to the same well over and over again. And it's almost like there's a prerequisite that I'm only going to pull candidates who have demonstrated experience in this particular industry or this particular product. Versus, how about we start thinking about what are the innate characteristics that I'm looking for in an ideal business person who can diagnose and build empathy and all the stuff we talked about before, and then we can teach them about the skill set and the knowledge they need in the industry. What's your thought on that?
I agree with that, and I go one step farther. Um, when a entrepreneur says that we have our business is complicated, we need industry experience.
Hmm.
My short answer to that is bullshit. Um, and that usually doesn't get a laugh. That usually gets somebody to sit back and get a scowl on their face. And then I explain, what does this person need to be great at?
Mm,
This candidate you're going to hire, what do they need to be great at? Well, they need to be great at sales. Oh, okay. What aspect of sales?
yeah.
Right? Do they need to be able to sell value? Do they need to be able to open new logos, or do you want them to take on accounts? What's the role? Right? So get them to start to think about that differently. And then once I get them into that space, I go back to the bullshit idea. Now you're
Yeah.
talking about you need industry experience. Let me switch that. What if they need experience calling on your buyer, right? Which speaks to your business acumen point.
Mm,
So if your buyer is the CFO and that's who makes the decisions. There's some other people on the buying team, but the CFO is the decision maker.
mm,
Wouldn't it be helpful if this salesperson has a Rolodex full of CFOs? What if he knows the language that the CFO uses? What if they know the pain points and what they fear and what they really want?
mm,
And if they sell in an adjacent industry, it's got nothing to do with your business. And
mm.
they're not necessarily a competitor. They just call on the CFOs.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be helpful? Wouldn't that be better than hiring a retread?
Respectfully
I
said.
or not. Um, because they started the whole conversation with you. How many salespeople have you hired in the last 3 years?
Mm.
We fired five. Oh, how many of them are still here? Three. And how
Yep.
many of them are performing? One.
Mm.
Hmm. Okay. Right. So we've established a pretty low bar
Mm.
you're getting 30%,
Yep.
maybe if you're lucky.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be cool if we could get to 80? Right. And all we got to do is just flip the mindset.
Yep.
Flip, and it's what we started talking about at the beginning. It's the mindset of the salesperson that we take responsibility
Mm.
for ourselves, and we're switching the mindset with hiring to look at it from a slightly different perspective. And I mean, I have a whole process that I teach and roll out, but just those things
Mm.
that we just talked through. If your audience implemented any one of those things, they're going to improve their chances of finding a better sales candidate. And it works with sales managers and sales leaders too.
Yeah, I'm interested in because you do talk about mindset and the mindset shift and getting good people in who can have those conversations with the CFOs and talk the language. But essentially putting or and some what I see is a lot of sales directors project onto the sales team. Well, they're a salesperson. They're like a minion, for want of a better term. They're there to do the grunt work. And so we treat them like that, right? And yet the expectation is for those same people to have the strategic conversations, to lead the sales initiative, to bring in all the key stakeholders. I just wonder how much of the limitations that the CEOs, the chief revenue officers have around their own perception of salespeople, how much of that actually limits the performance of the salespeople because of the way these senior executives look at the salespeople and look at the sales team. And if they change that and treated them with a high level of respect. And here's an interesting thing, maybe paid them more, would they actually get a better benefit? And instead of having 1 out of 5 being a good performer, could we increase that even by 50% and have 2 or 3 out of 5 being great performers? What would that mean to the business?
Well, your compensation, I tell people you're going to have to pay more than you want to pay,
Mm,
right? It's just the nature of the beast. If you want talent,
yeah,
if you want somebody that just can, carry the little binder and go through the brochure, you can get anybody to do that. But if you really want to change the game, you can do more with less. You
mm,
don't need five, maybe you only need three really competent salespeople.
mm,
But I think your point about the mindset of the leader, whoever that is is really critical and probably the hardest thing to change
mm,
in the organization because you have a company culture, and then I think you have a sales culture that's a subset of that culture. And it's sort of like that big family dinner, right? Like a big Italian family that there's a lot of yelling and there's a lot of food and people are screaming back and forth at each other, but they're family
yeah,
and they care about each other. And that's what you're looking for with a sales team,
mm,
right? That there's competition. I'm going to
mm,
get you right next month. You got me this month. You want all of that, but you want them to be loud. You want them to be aggressive. You want them to be having fun. Um, and if that leader doesn't allow for that and doesn't recognize that I got one guy that's doing great and these other two guys are just dragging us down,
yeah,
well, by accepting that mediocrity, eventually you're going to lose the person who's doing well
yeah, you will, 100%.
because mediocrity will just suck the life out of everybody
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
So their limitations on what they think about, what's the right pay, they shouldn't be doing that kind of travel or whatever their
mm,
concern is. They should be looking at the right KPIs that are going to move the needle that are leading indicators.
yeah,
They should be building pipelines. They should be getting people to prospect. Um, but they shouldn't be a hero.
no,
They should
no.
be coaching up their people to take their job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I say to sales teams, sales leaders, your role is to as quickly as possible get into a position where your role is redundant. And if you do that, you've done a great job because it means you've identified likely successes you poured into them. Doesn't mean you'll be lost to the company because a good company will always recognize, hey, a good leader has created a great atmosphere and a great environment, and you'll be given an opportunity to maybe allocate those skills to another area that's needed. And if not, you'll be well regarded in the marketplace, and there's always going to be an opportunity. So
Yeah,
love that.
100%.
Love that. Hey Walter, it's been a great conversation. I know you're struck for time. With your new book, I know it's been out a little while now. For people who'd like to get a copy of that, but also connect with you and plug into your podcast, Sales and Cigars, where's the best place for them to connect, buy the book, and plug into the pod?
Um, Podcasts is wherever you get podcasts like
Yep.
Apple, Spotify. It's available there. The book is on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It's available inside out with my last name. But here's the thing I'll do for your listeners. This is the book.
Yep.
Um, you'll publish my LinkedIn, right?
I
On
will. Yep.
Okay. So if somebody DMs me on LinkedIn,
Yep.
mentions you or the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
I will send them a copy of the book for free.
Perfect. Thank you.
And um, I think, and I'm happy to answer questions about that after they've read it.
Yep.
It's not a New York Times bestseller that's going to take you 3 weeks to read. It's written by a dumb sales guy who was very specific about who he was trying to reach. So it it's a two cigar book, Darren.
Two cigar book. Now you said earlier you've had four today. So does that mean maybe, I don't know, half a day?
Um, it's about 2.5 hours,
2.5 hours. Love it.
depending upon the size of the cigar, right?
That's a bit.
I mean, if you get a big Corona, that's about an hour and 15, 20 minutes, right? A Robusto you can get done in 35, 45 minutes. So depending upon your choice, um, a couple of cigars. Take your time, and enjoy the process, and that's what cigars are for.
Fantastic. Well, I'll certainly put all those in the show notes, and I highly recommend and highly encourage not only for people to connect with you, Walter, but also get a copy of the book because I know there'll be in that book some great information and great insights. That's going to improve whether you're an entrepreneurial organization running the entrepreneurial operating system, or whether you're just a sales leader within an organization looking to how you can improve the engagement of your sales team and get some cut through. There'll be stuff in there for them to benefit from. So, with that said, my friend, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. Is there some last comments you'd want to leave people with in terms of pearls of wisdom from the four cigar a day man?
Well, I think people can gain some advantage out of reading the book, but I think podcasts like yours, right? I think that's a great place for that salesperson, that sales leader, that sales manager to really just tune in, be consistent. Listening to you is going to help them with ideas, and they don't need 25 actionable ideas from every podcast.
Yeah,
They just need that one thing to be like, oh shit, I could do that,
yeah,
right? So you're providing a service that they need to take advantage of. There's lots of podcasts out there,
mm,
but
there is.
I heard a great. This is really not on topic, but it made me laugh. The best podcast name I've ever heard. Another dickhead with a podcast. I thought that was like hilarious. Like, I'm not going to change mine, but that's good. That's a good name. But listen to this podcast, tune into this on
Absolutely.
a regular because you're going to share a bunch of great ideas that's only going to help them.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I reciprocate that. Listen to yours as well, because not only will you learn about the intricacies of different types of cigars, but you'll learn something about sales as well. That's going to help you become better as an individual contributor, but also as a sales leader and also as an entrepreneur. So, with that said, we'll close off the podcast and the end of the mutually mutual. What do they say? The mutual something of society.
Adoration Society. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Walter, we're actually recording this before Christmas, so for me to you, have a wonderful Christmas break. Happy holidays
You
to
do the
you.
same.
For people listening to this in January, guys, start ramping up, start learning, start thinking about what you can do to change. Make the first quarter the momentum changer that's going to change the whole trajectory of the year. And plug into books like this one, Inside Out. Listen to the podcast, and yeah, go get them. Thanks, Walter.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.